Ranger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as access to product experts ready to answer your toughest questions. Call or click Ranger.com or stop on by. My thanks to Grant Hill, Juwan Taylor, the XR4 Ti, even you, Frisco fan. See y'all tomorrow. We're out.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming on YouTube. YouTube.com/CBS Sports Radio. 855-212-4CBS, number to jump on in. 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Carlos with a K, Stuart Kovacs, rocking and rolling all the way with me up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Logan Ryan of the San Francisco 49ers is going to stop by at the top of the hour. Two-time Super Bowl champion, looking to win his third Lombardi trophy 2 weeks from now. And then in the final segment of the show at 5:40 p.m. Eastern, 2:40 p.m. Pacific, we'll be joined by a man that just wrapped up his second year in the NFL. He plays for the Buffalo Bills, had over 1,500 all-purpose yards, and that is James Cook of the Buffalo Bills stopping by. So I got to start off the show today with the surprising news that the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, Ben Johnson, is staying with the Lions. Now, this is a shocker. This is really a stunner. Everyone thought that he was going to the Washington Commanders. It wasn't a matter of if it was going to happen. It was a foregone conclusion, and it was just dependent on when the Detroit Lions were going to bow out of the playoffs. And now with their postseason run over and only two jobs remaining, the Seahawks and the Commanders, and both of those teams were interested in Ben Johnson. Today, no one expected the domino to fall that Ben Johnson was going to take himself out of the head coaching market. And I get Ben Johnson can be selective. He's not even 40 years old yet. He is a well-accomplished offensive coordinator. Out of the guys that don't have experience out of a head coach, he was the creme de la creme name. But it is stunning that he's not taking the Commanders' job. Now, you could say, well, why not Seattle? Seattle has it made pretty damn well right now with the two running backs that they have, the trio at wide receiver with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba, some of the younger players in that secondary, but Geno Smith's your quarterback. So I could understand maybe Ben Johnson saying, yeah, you only need a quarterback, but they already have a commitment to Geno Smith. Maybe you don't want to go there, but I don't think Seattle's a bad destination. I actually think the Seahawks job is a very good one. But the job with the Commanders, like you're looking to build from the ground up, I don't know why you would pass on that job. There is positive momentum in Landover, Maryland with the Washington Commanders. I know you don't have a quarterback, but you have the second overall pick. You don't have the negativity that comes with Daniel Snyder anymore because he's out of the NFL, and good riddance to him, as now you have Josh Harris taking over that franchise. And we know that the Commanders have salary cap space. So it is perplexing to me that this is the decision. And quite frankly, I think it's the wrong decision by Ben Johnson. Like, what is going to happen if you stay with the Lions? You get another opportunity to win a Super Bowl? So, okay, you may view that as a great opportunity and you think you're right on the cusp of winning a Super Bowl in Detroit, but that's not a guarantee that that's going to happen next year. And how many years are you going to start to kick the can and continue to kick the can down the road? And when you keep on saying no, regardless of what the reasons are, you go from being the hot candidate to then the candidate of, well, he passed a bunch of times. Who is he? And why is he passing? And is there an ego to Ben Johnson? And he keeps on passing these jobs, or maybe you fall out of the being the popular guy. And then teams just go up. I kind of had it with what comes with Ben Johnson. And now this is back-to-back hiring cycles. Last year, I understand why he didn't want to go to Carolina. That was good foresight. David Tepper is an absolute disaster. I don't need to say anymore. But these two jobs, I would have to think, especially the Commander's job, because everyone thought Adam Peters, the new GM, was hiring Ben Johnson. I don't see why you would turn down. I don't see what the upside is going back to Detroit, where now you are already the hot guy without winning a championship, why you would turn down not only the Commanders, but then also potentially the Seattle Seahawks. And you know what? There was a lot of great anticipation with this hiring cycle, especially when we found out in the span of a week and a half of the names that were going to be available. Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh. And we know Jim Harbaugh is going to get introduced 2 days from now on Thursday in LA as the next head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. But it is bizarre that in all likelihood, we're going to go through this hiring cycle and Belichick's not going to get hired. Pete Carroll's not going to get hired. And maybe this decision by Ben Johnson does open up the door once again in this cycle for a guy like Mike Vrabel. But I can't sit here in great confidence and say that's going to be the case, because the hot name heading into the AFC Championship game for the Seattle Seahawks job, and it dropped that morning and they didn't interview him yet, was Mike Macdonald, the defensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I'm not someone that based off one outcome of one game, I say, oh, this guy goes from being the guy to no one wants him. Seattle, yeah, they understand Mike Macdonald's defense in the first half of that AFC Championship game did not perform well. But then they did a good job. And then you saw it was the offense of the Baltimore Ravens that failed the Ravens season more than it was the defense. So I guess Mike Macdonald is going to be the choice in Seattle. But then also, I thought it was a lock. And everyone that covers football said it was a lock that Ben Johnson was going to be the head coach of the Commanders. So what I'm saying is, what the bleep do we know? What the heck do we know when it comes to these hiring cycles? But the point I will make, look at Seattle and the Commanders. You want to tell me you don't want to hire Bill Belichick because Bill is a my way or the highway type of guy, and you want to get a little bit like the Atlanta Falcons, where people in your organization get worried if they're going to have jobs a year from now when Belichick comes in and wants to do it his way. Even though I disagree with that, I can understand it. But you look at a guy like Mike Vrabel, why the heck won't he be the next head coach of the Commanders or the Seattle Seahawks? Don't get me wrong. Ben Johnson may one day turn out to be a great head coach. Mike Macdonald may turn out to be a great head coach. But they're an unknown. We've never seen them, either of them, be a head coach. Mike Vrabel in Tennessee did not have a great roster. They did not have these wonderfully talented players. They had some stars in Derrick Henry. But in a league where you need a quarterback to win, and when we're in a league where it's who's your quarterback, who's your quarterback, who's your quarterback, Mike Vrabel had Ryan frickin' Tannehill. And Ryan Tannehill under Mike Vrabel was a number one seed, and then in another year got to an AFC Championship game. You never looked at Tennessee's roster and said, oh, they're loaded with an abundance of talent. So this guy could coach, and he's young. So Seattle, you get rid of Pete Carroll. I kind of think Mike Vrabel is a mirror image of Pete Carroll, except he's younger. And for the Commanders, now you don't get Ben Johnson, and that was your top candidate. So I can understand, right? The Commanders starting over. They want to go with a bunch of guys that you don't know what their potential is going to be, or it's all sold off of potential. But now I look at the odds, and who knows what the odds mean. But your candidates right now are Bobby Slowick, Mike McDonald, Dan Quinn, Aaron Glenn, and Anthony Weaver. And don't get me wrong, Vrabel has odds of plus 900. Slowick's at plus 200. McDonald's at plus 300. Dan Quinn's at plus 500. Aaron Glenn's at 1,000. And Anthony Weaver's at plus 1,500. And Vrabel's 900. But for Vrabel right now to have the fourth highest odds to be the next Commanders coach, that's ridiculous. But it just kind of gives you the foresight, and it kind of tells you and prefaces it with saying he's not expected to be the next head coach of the Washington Commanders. And for the Seahawks and the Commanders, all I'll say is why not? Why wouldn't you hire Mike Vrabel? Like, don't get me wrong, what Bobby Slowick did this past year with the Texans was awesome. Mike McDonald has been really good at Michigan and then also the Baltimore Ravens. Dan Quinn was a solid head coach. He's deserving of another opportunity. But I'd rather have Mike Vrabel than all three of those guys. So the Ben Johnson thing, it's stunning. It really is. Because he was the top name outside of the proven guys like Harbaugh and Belichick and Carroll and Vrabel. But now this is back-to-back off seasons, and whether it was salary, whether he didn't believe in those organizations, whether you want to believe that he's all in on chasing another Super Bowl for the Detroit Lions or their first Super Bowl for the Detroit Lions, whatever it is, it doesn't matter to me. I just don't think this is the right decision. But it's not my job. It's not my future. And he's still young. And maybe next year he'll finally leave. But is it really worth it to stay as the OC in Detroit, which you've done a rock star job, and that is an organization that's turning around, and even though it was a crappy end to their season, they had a great season with the Detroit Lions. But now your stock is as high as it's ever been. And I know someone could call me up at 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227 and say, Zach, well, if he wins a Super Bowl, maybe the stock will be even higher and it'll be even higher. But what's the likelihood of that? Like, the Lions are a really good team. The Lions are a Super Bowl contender next year. But Joe Burrow's coming back. Patrick Mahomes isn't going anywhere. You'll still have the 49ers in the NFC. Maybe the Eagles have a bounce-back season. But to pass up on this now, and you're going to basically say the Seahawks and the Commanders aren't appealing enough to you, then what job is going to be the right job for you? And then what is the job that you go, okay, I have to go take that job? I just think momentum is a big thing. And it's funny that we talk momentum with the week that the Lions just ruined all momentum that they had in their NFC title game. But you've now been the guy that's not proven as a head coach before the last two hiring cycles. How many more times are you going to kick the can down the road? And it's bonkers to me how the Commanders and Seahawks right now aren't going to hire, from what it feels like and what it appears like, Mike Vrabel. Like, with 2 jobs left, I can understand, even though I think it's stupid, why Belichick isn't getting a job. I can understand why Pete Carroll isn't getting a job. But the Vrabel part, where his age is, and I know he didn't get along with John Robinson, but Vrabel was right. Robinson wasn't right. It's almost like, does Vrabel not want a job, or do these teams, and I know there's been some connections with the Seahawks and Mike Vrabel, but these teams are really going to hire like Mike McDonald or Dan Quinn over Mike Vrabel? That just doesn't add up to me. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Also, I was listening to a little local radio last night, and I heard Mike Valenti, who works here, obviously, inside the Odyssey family, and does a kick-ass job with Boomer Esiason on that weekend show, previewing all the games, and his Monday through Friday gig is Afternoon Drive in Detroit. And I wanted to hear what the local Detroit station was saying, the ticket, about the Lions' loss. Mike Valenti made a great point, and I've never thought about it this way. He thinks that the Lions would have beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And I know that we focused so much yesterday on just them blowing the game to the 49ers. And even though the Lions beat the Chiefs in week 1, the Chiefs would have been a favorite, I would like to think, over the Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl. And even though I thought this Kansas City team was vulnerable, when you hear it said like that, and clearly, I would have said they blew a chance to go play for the Lombardi Trophy. But to say that they would have won the Super Bowl, I don't think he's wrong. Because the Lions put up a ton of points. And as great as Patrick Mahomes is, and it's going to be impossible to doubt Patrick Mahomes in the big game, that Chiefs offense this past week had no points in the second half. And if you get to like 24 points, even with Kansas City's defense being really good, in all likelihood, you're going to win the game. So I don't think that's nuts for Valenti to say, not only did the Lions blow the opportunity to play in the Super Bowl, but he really did think that they would have beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And I thought of one more thing from the collapse by the Detroit Lions. And it goes back to the aggressive topic that we talked about yesterday for pretty much the entire show. And we got some great phone calls at 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. And I think the overwhelming majority of people believe Dan Campbell made reckless, stupid, idiotic, and dumb decisions in the second half of the NFC title game. At least one, if not multiple. And I thought running the ball on 3rd and goal and calling a timeout was dumb. I thought when you lost the lead and you're down by 3 and you have a chance to tie up the game with a less than 50-yard field goal, not taking that opportunity was dumb. The one that I defended was when they were up by 14 in the second half, going for it. I was okay with that. But we did have two smart football guys in Ross Tucker and Mike Golick who both vehemently disagreed with that decision by Dan Campbell. So at best, like for me, I'm going to say 2 out of his 3 decisions were wrong. But then there were people that were saying, but Zach, this is how he coached all year. Zach, this is his aggressiveness. And you got to live and die with it. Well, if that's the case, and this was just something I thought of, right before the end of the first half, they had a 4th and goal at the 3-yard line. 4th and goal at the 3. One more play right before the end of the half. Why didn't he go for it there? So it was fine to settle for the field goal there, but then you wouldn't settle for the field goal or attempt the field goal later in the game. And I know the brainiacs will tell me, oh, well, the kicker hasn't been good all year, and that was a chip shot compared to the other 2 where the percentages haven't been great. Okay. I can live with that answer. But don't then say, well, that's who Dan Campbell is. He's aggressive, aggressive, aggressive. And I'm not saying he isn't aggressive, but don't use the aggressiveness to justify your point on why it was the right decision. Because if he goes for it then all the time, he should have gone for it right before the end of the first half. But he took the points, and taking the points was the right decision. And it's something that he should have at least attempted in the second half, but he didn't elect to do that. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson, the future of the Commanders and the Seahawks, all on the table for you. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Logan Ryan going to another Super Bowl, going to join us at the top of the hour, defensive back for the San Francisco 49ers in the final segment of the show today at 5:40 p.m. Eastern, 2:40 p.m. Pacific. James Cook will join us from the Buffalo Bills.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
More and more I hear Antonio Pierce speak. My comp for him is Dan Campbell. He is Dan Campbell for what Dan Campbell is to the Lions, what Antonio Pierce is to the Raiders. And that is just, we're going to physically beat you up. We're going to smack you in the mouth. We're going to bite off your kneecaps. And that could galvanize a locker room when you have a former player who's not that far removed from playing, connecting with younger players now in the NFL.
Here's Zach Gelb.
All righty, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We will be broadcasting in Las Vegas all throughout Super Bowl week starting next week. Monday through Friday, we'll give you 5 kick-ass shows. We're getting some of the biggest names around the sports world to join us on Radio Row from 12 to 3 p.m. Pacific, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on CBS Sports Radio. So going to be a fun 5 days in Vegas next week. We'll get you a lot of content, obviously, on the air and then off the air as well. So I did go to Baltimore for the AFC Championship game on Sunday. And with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, they make an announcement in the press box. if you are a media member and you want to go on the field for the post-game celebration, line up right now at the south entrance. And I was like, you know what? I don't need to go on the field. And the reason why I didn't want to go on the field is because I actually didn't think there was going to be a trophy celebration on the field. Because my memory, at least, when I saw the Patriots beat the Chiefs and I was watching from home, my memory of it was the trophy presentation when a road team wins was kind of like done in the locker room. It wasn't done on the field. So I'm like, maybe the media people are wrong here. And they're going to bring everyone down there, and then they're going to bring people on the field, and they're going to be like, oh, it's off to the side, the trophy presentation. Now, looking back, that was a massive mistake from your boy. Because it never crossed my mind in a million years that Taylor Swift, with just how many probably security is around her, was going to make her way from whatever luxury box she was in to then on the field. So I kind of blew that opportunity to be in the same area as one Taylor Swift. Now, I ended up going to the post-game press conference room and was in the first row and got a lot of other content that's probably more important that way. But I think from the average person, right, because we're football people, but from people that necessarily aren't what we do, they probably care more about Taylor Swift than the actual football. And I don't know about you guys. I'll ask Carlos this because I know Stu is a Swiftie. So Stu, everything he's going to say is going to be biased. Does the coverage of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's relationship, does it annoy you at all when you're watching the game?
No, to be honest, I don't think I've really noticed it too much. Yeah, I see a couple of extra shots that, they get her reaction, but I actually think this is great because there are a lot of non-football fans, especially in the female demographic, that are paying attention to the Chiefs specifically, but the NFL overall. Like, I have a goddaughter who's not interested in football at all. I've tried to talk to her about it. I tried to have her sit down with me, watch a couple of games. Until a couple of weeks ago, she never cared. Now, she actually told me, she texted me and told me that the Chiefs had beaten the Ravens in the AFC Championship game.
That's cool.
I'm like, how do you know? And she's like, I was watching because of the Taylor Swift.
And here's the thing. I don't understand people that are freaking out, losing their mind over this coverage. I just saw Awful Announcing put out a tweet, and it said how many seconds Taylor Swift was actually shown on the CBS broadcast. You want to take a guess? This was Sunday's AFC Championship game. Chiefs, Ravens. How many times, in terms of seconds, how long did CBS show Taylor Swift? You want to take a guess, Carlos?
I'm going to go with 7.
Okay. Stu?
I was going to go more than that, but not too much. Maybe like 25 seconds.
44 seconds.
Wow.
So not even a minute. Not even a minute of actual broadcast footage being shown of Taylor Swift on Sunday, and look at the reaction that it causes. And I know that this has now been politicized, just seeing the cesspool that is Twitter. Like, I'm not saying I'm the biggest Taylor Swift fan in the world. I like her. I have no reason to dislike her. But the fact that she's dating Travis Kelce and she gets shown, what's the downside to it? What is everyone freaking out about and losing their mind?
Football's a man's game. This is where I come into my cave and eat my raw meat and my beer. I don't want any Swifties around here. Sundays is for me.
It's just stupid. It really is. And think about it. I go to the Super Bowl every year. That Monday night, the opening night of the Super Bowl, is a circus. You have people dressed up in costumes. You have people asking the players the craziest questions. We allow all that to go on. But then Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are dating, and it's, oh, this is disgraceful. You show them way too much on my broadcast. This is not my football. Like, what? It was 44 damn seconds. 44 seconds. And that's what people are bitching and complaining about? Like, I think now we just live in a world where people like to just say they get offended and they like to slam people. And don't get me wrong, I love a good rant. I love freaking out over something that is so trivial. But what makes you really get going and so fed up over Taylor Swift dating Travis Kelce? I think it's great. And also, anyone, and I know now, especially with betting, everyone has a conspiracy theory. Everyone has a reason to try to justify their losing bets. You know, if betting was so easy, trust me, I wouldn't be doing this for a living. And I love what I do for a living. I'd be sitting on a big bag of cash and a big pile of cash, and I'd be laughing to the bank, and I wouldn't be working. I would just be placing sports bets. But now, it's like people are going to say, the NFL rigged this. And I know it's a cheesy joke. Everything's scripted in the NFL. No, Lamar Jackson just couldn't show up in a big spot. The Bills can't win a big game to save their life. That's why the Kansas City Chiefs are here. The Chiefs weren't even great this year. The Chiefs were like a fine regular season team. They know how to win. They have a really good defense that's, I've been telling you since week 3, is underappreciated. And Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback on the planet. And here's the other thing. I was reading that there is a betting line out there of plus 920 that Travis Kelce is going to get engaged to Taylor Swift following the Super Bowl, like at the game. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to give you the hot take, the Zach Gelb Swiftie take of the day. I do not think that Travis Kelce is going to pop the big question at the big game. With that being said, though, and I've said this from the start of this relationship, I do think he will one day propose to Taylor Swift. And it wouldn't shock me if maybe they were dating or seeing each other a little bit longer than when it was reported. Now, I don't know how Taylor Swift ever hides a relationship because she doesn't live that far from where we broadcast. And there are people outside her apartment like 24/7, which, you know, I know you're a big fan, but get a life if we're being real. So I don't know how she would hide anything. And it's not like Travis Kelce is some small person that you could hide. So I don't know how they would hide it. But, you know, celebrities and meetups and inner circles, there has to be some private places. Maybe the relationship has been going on a little bit longer than we thought. So I am of the belief that one day they will get engaged. Now, we'll see if they make it to the aisle. We'll see if they end up having a happy marriage. I'm not going to guarantee you that. But I do think an engagement will happen with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. It's just not happening at the Super Bowl. And also, let me talk to the guys out there. And maybe some people have done this. I think if you propose at a sporting event, and I know it's a little bit different because it's Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, and they've been the biggest story of the NFL. Like, I liked Ian Johnson, the Boise State. It's the one stadium proposal that I actually liked after he won the Fiesta Bowl with the stunning upset up against Oklahoma when he got down on one knee and proposed to his girlfriend. That was cool. But 9.9 times out of 10, you look like a loser if you're proposing to your significant other at a sporting event, and I can't see how the significant other would ever find that romantic. Now, I get it would be on the field after the game, all that stuff, but let's say the regular person, what do you have? Some guy that has a beer belly standing next to you in the stadium puking up his guts as you're getting down on one knee and asking your significant other if they'll marry you? You got like popcorn getting thrown all over you? It just, I'm not big on the stadium proposals. Never have. Never will. And I don't think the person you're proposing to is great about it as well. And here's the other thing. Like, you got to know if the person's going to say yes when you're getting down on one knee. But I wonder how many times someone gets proposed to at a stadium. And because it's always a big deal and they always show you in the Jumbotron and there's always a crowd of people around you, I wonder how many times the gal just says yes and they get into a car and they're like, yeah. That's a no, like Randy Jackson from American Idol. That's a no from me, dog. This ain't happening. Because imagine how much of, let me say this in a polite way, a not nice person you would have to be to embarrass the person that's proposing to you at a live sporting event and say no on the spot. And I even think doing so in a restaurant is a little bit much. Like, there's probably a space where you could go and things like that. I think that should be more of a private moment. But to each his own, right? So, Stu, I'll ask you this. You being the resident Swiftie of our show. That's right. Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce. Are they going to one day get engaged? I don't think they're getting engaged at the Super Bowl. That's plus 920. But you're a believer in this relationship.
Yeah, not Super Bowl, but maybe like a year or so from now. Yes, I do see that coming.
And, I understand people that question the relationship up until this part. But when she's on the field with him after the game, crying, calling Ed Kelsey dad, walking around with Donna Kelsey everywhere. They're smoochy and on the field, she's pointing to Andy Reid. Like, you can't be pointing to Andy Reid and then break Travis Kelce's heart. You can't do it. Carlos, you're shaking your head. You don't think that they're ever going to actually get engaged?
I hope not, because that breakup album is going to be lit.
Well, if they get engaged, why can't they live happily ever after?
Well, then no one's going to want to listen to that song. It's like, hey, everything worked out, da-da-da-da. No, you got to have the Travis
so you want this to end in the worst way possible?
Oh, because you know how many Grammys she's going to win from that? I don't want, listen, do I want to wish ill on either of them? No, they seem like pleasant people.
So you're rooting in evil is what you're telling me.
But yeah, I'm an agent of chaos.
You're a jackass.
I love good music, man. So if you're telling me I can get a kick-ass album out of that, I'm all in for it. I'll sign up.
All righty. Very selfish that I've learned about Carlos Ortiz. Carlos Ortiz doesn't want to see other people happy. He just wants to see them miserable to benefit his own personal satisfaction. All righty, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We will call it, as always, the news brief. But first up, with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Looking for a career path with flexibility and great pay and benefits? Go to progressive.com/careers and apply online today. There are 2 NFL coaching vacancies left, but neither the Seahawks nor Commanders void will be filled by Ben Johnson, who said he is staying in Detroit for another season after coming up short of the Super Bowl. The Steelers' offensive coordinator position was an ongoing saga this year, and now they have reportedly found their new one, set to name former Falcons head coach Arthur Smith to the position. There's not a lot of margin for error for teams in the middle of the East. The Sixers are third, percentage points in front of the Knicks, and a half game in front of the Cavaliers. Philly continues its road trip tonight in San Francisco against the Warriors, following a loss in Portland when there was no Joel Embiid, no Tyrese Maxey, and a 5 for 29 night from three-point range, leaving head coach Nick Nurse disappointed.
Things were going very well, and then things got a little shaky, and we seemed to not have great composure. You mentioned it. We didn't shoot the ball very well. We couldn't answer back, and then that started deflating us even more.
The aforementioned Knicks go for their 8th straight at home against the Jazz. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, this is Bart Winkler inviting you to join me here on CBS Sports Radio for The Bart Winkler Show. Weeknights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio. Here's Zach Gelb.
The Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the Armed Forces, DoD, veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. This week's player is Chiefs defensive back, L'Jarius Sneed. His crucial forced fumble in the beginning of the fourth quarter on Sunday prevented a Ravens touchdown and gave Kansas City the ball back. The Chiefs as a team held Baltimore to just 3 points in the second half. All righty, time to update you on the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. Let's get to a news brief.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, read all about it.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
So there was a lot of just bizarre reporting, and I don't know what was true and what was false with Kadarius Toney, but Kadarius Toney did not help himself over the weekend. So he was inactive for the AFC Championship game, and they were talking about an injury that he had, and he's been on the injury report. And then it also came out that there was personal reasons, and we found out that Kadarius Toney and his significant other had a kid. So, all right, you have a kid, maybe you're going to miss the AFC Championship game. Like, that's understood. But then it must have been hours before the AFC Championship game started, because I'm in the press box, and all the media are like, did you see this Kadarius Toney video? Did you see this Kadarius Toney video? And Kadarius Toney, you can't see him. Like, there's no video of him, but it's on his account, and I guess he was live, and he's just cursing up a storm saying that there's no injury. So is this just like, don't get me wrong, the first thing that I thought of was maybe the Chiefs just don't trust him because he can't catch the ball. And I understand last year in the Super Bowl, he made two of the bigger plays in the Super Bowl, but this year he's been a disaster. And you know that Kadarius Toney always puts his own foot in his mouth. So maybe they're just fed up with him, but they know what the talent is, so they don't want to get rid of him. And it's not like the Chiefs have an abundance of wide receivers. So if you have an injury in the conference championship game, maybe you'll end up needing him in the Super Bowl. So this has turned into a whole lot of something. And, think about it. Andy Reid is a Hall of Fame coach, right? The last thing he needs to be dealing with is Kadarius Toney getting all caught up in his feelings. And when you're not producing and you're being a pain in the ass, that's a recipe for you not to have a job with the Kansas City Chiefs in short order, or quite frankly, anywhere in the NFL moving forward. But here is Andy Reid yesterday saying Kadarius Toney actually does, in fact, have a real injury.
Yeah, well, obviously he's been on the injury report. So, I got that part is that's not made up by any means, but he's been working through some things, and he'll be back out there.
Not all that convincing. Oh yeah, he's obviously been on the injury report. What? Now, I think part of that is just him being disgusted that he even has to answer these questions. But man, today's word of the day on this show is bizarre. Ben Johnson bypassing the Commanders and the Seahawks, bizarre. Kadarius Toney and his injury, bizarre. We'll see what happens in a bizarre way for the next 2 hours right here on CBS Sports Radio. Let's go to Andy Reid. He said the loss to Stu's Raiders on Christmas turned their season around.
That was a good wake-up call for us. They came out with great emotion. Antonio had them ready to go, but that emotion was the thing that jumped out at you that they played with, and I think it gave our guys a nice little for a better term, a wake-up call. That listen, we need to step things up here. Things aren't just gonna fall in our lap.
Stu, I actually feel bad for you. Here you are, minding your own business, innocent Raider fan that you are, and now your team is the reason, according to Andy Reid, why they were able to turn their season around. And the Raiders were basically the Chiefs' coffee to wake them up and make sure that the Chiefs end up playing the way that the Chiefs usually play.
Yeah, now they get to use the Raiders' home locker room in the Super Bowl and all the Raiders' facilities and all of that, and probably win a Super Bowl in the Raiders Stadium.
Yeah, so the Raider-49er rivalry is nasty. They had to cancel those preseason games because there was shootings and stabbings for all those years. And I know you being a Raiders fan, you also hate the Chiefs because they're your divisional rival. But there is really bad blood between the 49ers and the Raiders.
Yes.
Who are you rooting for in this Super Bowl?
49ers. So it's different for me because I'm not from the Bay Area. I think that's part of it. And also the fact that the Raiders moved, I think, maybe lessens that a tiny bit. I think it's definitely the Chiefs are hated way more, though. 49ers are probably top 5 for Raiders fans, but I think Chiefs are number 1 for sure.
Let's go to Justin Tucker. There was a little kerfuffle before that AFC Championship game where Travis Kelce, in a bizarre way, was kicking Justin Tucker's helmet and throwing it out of the way when Patrick Mahomes was trying to warm up. Here is Justin Tucker after the NFC title game in his altercation with Travis Kelce before the game.
For those that don't know, the way it works is each team's kicker goes to the other team's designated warm-up area on the field. And for me, it's usually about 90 minutes before kickoff. So I've been doing the exact same thing for 12 years. Never really had a problem with anybody. Yeah, that's just kind of the way we've always done it, and the way kickers around the league have always done it. And I saw Patrick there trying to warm up and get some drop backs, so he asked me while I was on the ground stretching, if I could move my helmet. So I happily got up and I moved my helmet out of the way. At least I thought it was enough out of the way. And then Travis comes over and he just kicks my stuff and he throws my helmet. And I just thought it was all just some gamesmanship, all in good fun, but they seem to be taking it a little bit more seriously. I'm totally willing to let it all go, but I just wanted to explain that that's just what I've done for 12 years, and it's not like I'm out there trying to be problematic. I'm just trying to get ready for the football game, just like they are.
Yeah, I think Justin Tucker's actually in the right here. And I saw James Palmer from the NFL Network, who's joined this show a bunch. He got the video, and he put the video out there. And I quickly commented underneath it. I did the Taylor Swift line where it's Karma's the guy on the Chiefs as she changed the lyrics. What's the original lyrics to that? Stu, do you know? You being Mr. Swiftie?
Karma's the guy on TV.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. You could have told me anything there. I probably would just shake my head yes. So I just tweeted underneath it, bad karma is the guy on the Chiefs. Like, clearly being a joke. I can't tell you how many meathead Kansas City Chiefs fans after the game were like, oh, how about the bad karma now? Look who won. And I was just like, joke flying right over the head. You just can't be funny anymore. That's what I realized. Here is Art Rooney II on what he thinks of the Steelers QB situation. This courtesy of Steelers.com.
Well, I mean, number one, Kenny, I think we still believe in Kenny and think he has room to grow and look forward to, the new coordinator, the new staff coming in and helping him take that next step. And then, Mason came in and showed what he can do and really, I think, was able to show what our offense is capable of and did a great job. And so, love to have Mason back if everything can work out.
Yeah, when Mason Rudolph has made this into a conversation, that even gives me further proof that Kenny Pickett's just not that dude, okay? You can't tell me Kenny Pickett's going to be the franchise quarterback. You could say, oh, yeah, it was Matt Canada all you want, and don't get me wrong, I eviscerated Matt Canada on the air. I called for him to be fired like 9,000 times throughout the football season. But when Mason Rudolph makes a case to be the guy and the owner has to talk about it and your coach has to talk about it, I don't care what happened with Kenny Pickett. I know that's not the guy. And now they're hiring Arthur Smith to be their offensive coordinator. Deontay Johnson and George Pickens are going to lose their mind. Because Arthur Smith, all he had to do was run the ball, and they would have won the NFC South. Instead, he tried to make Desmond Ridder someone that he's not, and he clearly annoyed Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and then also Tyler Algier in the process. Here is Draymond Green reacting to Grant Hill saying he left him off the Olympic team because of his antics.
When I came into this NBA, and I've publicly said this before, there was two guys I was starstruck by. One was Kobe Bryant, and the other one was Grant Hill. I grew up in the state of Michigan, Grant Hill, Detroit Pistons. And so I wish that he would have just said that to me, especially if you're going to say that publicly. And so it hurt me a little bit, like from a fan standpoint as well. I'm a big fan of Grant Hill. And if I got a call because some guys drop off that list that's just unforeseen for whatever reasons, and then I need to fill a spot on that team, guess what? I'll be ready with my bags packed and go play in the third Olympics because I'm not too big to be second.
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't even know if it's the antics. Like, I don't think it helps, but the juice just isn't worth the squeeze anymore, even for Team USA with Draymond Green. I don't think he's a great player anymore. I don't think you need him on the Olympic team. So last night, the Rockets beat the Lakers. Jared Vanderbilt got provoked, I guess you could say, by Bum Brooks, Dylan Brooks, but it wasn't even anything crazy. I think Bum Brooks, according to one player, called him the P word. Like, I don't think that's a reason why you get a double technical and you, kind of pointed Bum Brooks a little bit from Jared Vanderbilt. Here is LeBron James after the game. He doesn't want to talk about Dylan Brooks.
We were here earlier in the year. We asked you about Brooks, and you said...
Next question.
Vando obviously got the ejection tonight. You've had... Dylan Brooks has had his issues, so coming after you in certain ways. Tonight, again, he got hit, gained composure. How do you deal with that? How do you kind of talk to Vando about things like that are going on in the course of the game?
Well, he's got to be a better team. He's got to be better to win ball games.
Let's just be real. The Lakers suck. There's no other way around it. The Lakers suck, and they're a soft team. And how you allow, once again, Bum Brooks to get under your skin is crazy. And then you also have the drama of LeBron James giving Darvin Ham the side eye, another coach that LeBron's just not going to accept, and he's going to want to get him fired. The Lakers are a mess. And how they still allow Bum Brooks to get under their skin is wild. Just absolutely wild to me. What a soft team and what a weak team the Lakers are this year. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. But hey, at least they have that midseason championship that they won. Hang that banner. Celebrate that. You won a championship this year, so what does the rest of the season mean? Absolutely nothing. All righty, Logan Ryan going to be playing the Super Bowl next week. 49ers from cruise to a Super Bowl. We'll get that story next.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's Phillies nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, we continue. This is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. We should be joined momentarily by Logan Ryan, who is now back to another Super Bowl, this time with the San Francisco 49ers. They're going to be going up against the Kansas City Chiefs 2 Sundays from now, Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. So hopefully we can connect with Logan Ryan momentarily. James Cook of the Buffalo Bills going to be stopping by at 5:40 p.m. Eastern, 2:40 p.m. Pacific. Obviously, Super Bowl is set. Excited for the matchup. And we'll have all the coverage next week from Radio Row in Las Vegas for Super Bowl 58 between the Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. Being out in Vegas, 5 shows for you Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 p.m. Pacific. So momentarily we should be joined by Logan Ryan from the San Francisco 49ers. Got a whole lot more cooking the rest of the day. We told you James Cook is going to stop by at 5:40 p.m. Eastern. Also going to get into, out of all these quarterbacks, and we'll take Joe Burrow out of the conversation. We'll take Brock Purdy out of the conversation because he is 60 minutes away from winning a Super Bowl. Who's the quarterback that has a ring, or that doesn't have a ring, that could be getting their first ring in the foreseeable future? So we will try to connect with Logan Ryan, just having some issues behind the scenes, and we'll hope to do that momentarily. But now, as we on the verge of Super Bowl week and all the chaos of next week, I think the biggest story is the hiring cycle, as you do have 2 jobs that are out there and 2 jobs remaining with the Washington Commanders and the Seattle Seahawks. And the big news today is that Ben Johnson, who everyone thought was going to be the next head coach of the Washington Commanders, was still in the running with the Seattle Seahawks. Ben Johnson is going to be staying put with the Detroit Lions. And Adam Schefter of ESPN, obviously, he had some news about this and more of an understanding of the hire or the decision by Ben Johnson that was being made. Lions offense coordinator Ben Johnson has 2 years remaining on his contract with Detroit. His deal was not adjusted to stay, per league source, proving that money is not Johnson's biggest motivation. The Lions still could opt to adjust the contract down the line, but it's not the reason that Johnson returned to Detroit today. Johnson is loyal. Like, I understand, someone being loyal, someone wanting to stay. You're in that mold and you're competing for a championship and you don't find a way to get the job done in the second half. But when then is it going to be the right decision for Ben Johnson to end up going and taking a head coaching job? He is 37. Sometimes guys are just made to be offensive coordinators, but I feel like we are not being told the entire story today, because it is bizarre that this is now 2 hiring cycles where Ben Johnson was highly coveted, and both times, last year with the Carolina Panthers job, and now this time with 2 jobs out there, the Commanders and the Seattle Seahawks, that he's just going to take his name out of the running. And it is wild to me how Mike Vrabel, who's a heck of a coach, is still available. Bill Belichick, who's a heck of a coach, is still available. And in both of those cases, Belichick doesn't appear like he's going to be coaching. There's already speculation that he's going to do TV next year. And Bill, to me, should be on a sideline. And then when it comes to Mike Vrabel, that guy is a phenomenal young coach still in this league. And I think that Mike Vrabel should be the next head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. And also, you're the Commanders. You just got passed up on your number 1 choice in Ben Johnson. Why wouldn't you get on the phone and try to lure the services of Mike Vrabel to the Washington Commanders? And that's wild. I know, hey, it's a different age and a different era for guys like Belichick and Pete Carroll, but it is wild how both of those guys in all likelihood are not going to be on an NFL sideline next year. And maybe they'll be the 2 most sought-after guys a year from now, but they're only getting older and older, and you don't really know what the hiring trend is in the NFL. And you don't know what teams are looking for, but it is weird that Belichick and Carroll just seem not to be hot commodities. You haven't heard a peep on Pete Carroll, who wanted to continue to coach in Seattle, and they basically said thanks but no thanks, and we'll move you to a different position. And then for Belichick, it seemed like he was all in on the Atlanta Falcons, and then Rich McKay basically put just basically say that it's not going to happen because Arthur Blank trusted him. So it's just one of those situations where it's absolutely wild. I see Logan Ryan is waiting there. Can we just try to pop him up and just see if we punch him through? Logan, can you hear me? I know you've been listening to me rant now for the last 5 minutes. You there?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Ah, there we go. I can hear you loud and clear. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the last 5 minutes of the show. And I apologize. We were having some technical difficulties behind the scenes. But I saw the video of you and your family, Logan Ryan here with us from the San Francisco 49ers, celebrating after the game. That must have just been, I know you've won a Super Bowl before. I know you've played in a few Super Bowls. But to be in that NFC title game and celebrating with your family after the game, that just seemed awesome.
Yeah, man, it was amazing. Truly a great feeling. And I think more because my kids are at an age, I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son. The 2 Super Bowls I played in and won, Super Bowl 49 and 51, my daughter was in my wife's belly in one of them, and she was just a toddler, 18 months. So she has very little memory. But now my son, who wants to be just like me, and my daughter, who is taking it all in, I mean, I felt they're involved. They saw every single play, and they were nervous. So I was happy we were able to pull it out for them and, all the Niners fans.
For you personally, I know the family component is so big, but you've played football your entire life. To basically be out for most of this season and then get that call in December and you join the 49ers and now you're 60 minutes away from winning another Super Bowl individually, with it looking like football was maybe over and now being on the highest stage in 2 weeks. How do you kind of put that into perspective with the emotions of it?
Man, it's a crazy story, a crazy situation. I've obviously been through a lot in my career. I've won a lot in my career. I prepared a lot in my career, but this was a different experience of really being at peace. If I didn't play again, I wasn't necessarily looking to play. I wasn't trying out for teams. I told a couple of teams I'm not interested in playing for them this year, just because of, my family, and I didn't necessarily need to feel accomplished, to feel any more whole. I was at peace where I was at with my career, and I wanted to have some stability with my kids and stay in the same school multiple years in a row. And when I wasn't looking for it, that call came. Obviously, I was on a cruise when that call came. That story has been told. And so I was like, okay, let's go. Let's do it if we're going to do it. So my family was all in. My son started training with me and got in good enough shape, got on the team. The challenge of picking up mid-season, a little different. And here we are, good enough to get on the field, good enough to help the team out. And just we're the best team in football. So 2 best teams left. We're one of them. To be able to join that roster mid-season is pretty cool. Something to talk about later.
Yeah, one of my best friends is Logan Ryan, is here with us, defensive back for the 49ers. He works for Royal Caribbean, so I've been able to go on a cruise with him and a bunch of friends, and we got the drink package, and we're hitting up all the buffets. I can't imagine going from the cruise mindset to then the NFL mindset. That must have been wild for you.
Yeah, it was a really critical time there as I was debarking the ship, the ship was about to debark. John Lynch, my agent had called me that John Lynch wants to reach out about joining the 49ers. And I honestly said, well, this ship's going to take off in about an hour, and I'm probably not going to have cell service. So if he doesn't call me in an hour, I'm not going to be in good enough shape to play football this year, because I plan on having a drink package on this cruise. Luckily, John called me in time, and my mindset, I didn't have one drink yet, so my mindset shifted to the gym. The Disney cruise had a great gym. I was on the treadmill every morning and night, was able to run a lot, lift some weights on there, and transition that into, playing in a game 2 weeks later, and here we are.
Logan Ryan here with us, getting set to play in another Super Bowl with the 49ers. When you first walked into that Niners locker room, and you've been around championship teams and you've been on them before, we know that this is Super Bowl or bust this year for the 49ers. What did you sense was special about this group, being an outsider walking in for the first time?
Oh, it's a championship team already. Just the talent, the organization, Jed York, the DiBartolo family, just do a great job giving everything they can for their players to be, from nutrition to recovery. It's all there from an organizational standpoint. But I remember I came in on a Tuesday to do a little tryout to see what shape I was in. For the team, wanted to see where I was. And on that Tuesday in the weight room, walking out to the field, I saw Brock Purdy in there. I saw Fred Warner. I saw Bosa. And for the NFL fans, Tuesdays are off day. That's the one day a week we're not in office. And great players usually come in even on their off day to get some recovery in, to get a lift in, whatever. I would say 75% of the team was in there on a Tuesday. And I was blown away by that. And then fast forward to after practice Wednesday, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa back in the weight room, Christian McCaffrey back in the weight room. So these guys are lifting every day. You don't have to do that to necessarily do our job. So I saw a lot of like-minded individuals. I saw a lot of people that saying, man, we won it this year. We're not waiting. And we're signing guys like Logan Ryan to go win it this year. And I knew right then and there, this reminds me of those Patriots teams. This reminds me of a championship locker room. We just got to go finish the job. We got to go do it. But all the pieces are in play.
And you know the daily grind of what it takes to win a Super Bowl. And when you're a team like the 49ers, no one's going to really praise you until you hoist that Lombardi trophy. I think the coverage of Brock Purdy, even though there's been some positive and some negative coverage of him, it's really galvanized that locker room. Because I don't care how you refer to Brock Purdy. It doesn't matter to me. As long as he keeps on winning, you know that's the only thing that matters. But it seems like the way that people have gone after Brock, that has brought out even a different version of the 49ers.
Yeah, I think everyone has his back. And I think there's a lot of great players in this locker room. I think there's future Hall of Famers in this locker room. There's all pros in this locker room. And everyone is unanimously saying, this is our quarterback. Better than the previous quarterback, better than the draft pick that they, the first round pick that they traded up. This guy is unanimously our quarterback, and we got his back. And he does a great job of winning games, period. And we're about winning. We just want to win. It doesn't matter who gets the credit. That's one thing I remember about Tom Brady. He literally, a game plan would be Tom Brady's throwing for 6 touchdowns and 400 yards. And then in the AFC Championship game the next week, LeGarrette Blount has 40 carries. And we run the ball for 400 yards. Whatever it takes to win, he was willing to do. And I feel like Brock's the same way. Brock, if you're going to give Christian and Debo and these guys the credit, they are great players. Brock doesn't care. Give them the credit. I just want to win. And I think us players respect that because the system is to spread the ball around. The system's to have great players. John Lynch and them are trying to get the best football players. You can't blame them for having too many great players around them. So he's doing everything he's asked to do, and ultimately his job is to be a leader, be accountable, and to win games, take care of the football and to win games, and he does that every single week.
Logan Ryan here with us. What was the scene like in the locker room at halftime? You guys didn't have your best effort in the first half up against the Lions. You're at home. You know that there's 30 minutes until a trip to the Super Bowl is going to be handed out. What was the vibe in the Niners locker room at halftime on Sunday?
It wasn't movie-like. There was no screaming, no yelling. I think it was just talking like, man, we got to play better. We got to step it up. Defensively, I felt like we got to get some stops. We're not even giving our team a chance to compete. We got to get some stops for our offense. Our offense obviously said they got to get going. They wanted to change some things up. And I remember being in the locker room 28-3 in the Super Bowl or 25-3 in the Super Bowl. And it was the same way. We got that question. What was it like? There was no big speech. Guys were like, man, we just got to start playing better. We're not even playing well. Credit to Detroit. They played great, but we weren't even doing things we were trying to do, the things we've been doing all year. So I remember walking out of that, New England locker room, and someone said, it's going to be the greatest comeback of all time. Duron Harmon said it's going to be the greatest comeback of all time. Another Rutgers guy. And I remember being like, he had the confidence to say that in that moment. So I remember I was telling guys, this is going to be the greatest. This is going to be the greatest comeback of this team's all time. It's going to be the greatest championship comeback of all time. And nobody blinked about that. No one laughed about it. And that comeback happened in the third quarter. By the fourth quarter, we were back in the game. So I think it shows you what this team's capable of, and we're all doing our jobs. And hats off to Detroit though. They brought it, man. They brought it. Their fan base brought it. That team brought it to us. That was a good game. That was one of the funnest, most electric environments. I've been in 6 championship games, going on my 3rd Super Bowl. I think I arguably played in the 2 best Super Bowls of all time. We had a Titans game in Arrowhead where Mariota threw a ball to himself. We came back and won. That was a pretty cool environment. But this game was one of the most electric environments for Detroit's fan base traveling and showing up, and it just was a beautiful night.
I know your role changed because of an injury during the game and you got on the field a little bit more. Just how about what you were able to give the team individually and step up at a big moment?
Yeah, that's just part of my job is be ready at all times, and I can play multiple positions. Last game started at safety, and we had an idea of, why don't you start, repping at nickel corner? You've played it early in your career. Why don't you start learning our defense at that position? I haven't played that position at all in practice or anything. I was all either safety position. So if something were to happen, we probably want you on the field there too. So, something I took, I was like, you know what? If that's best for the team, I'll do it. So I learned the position this week. Just like you would have it, an opportunity came. I ended up getting in the game, very end of the game at that position, was, ready and prepared. And hats off to Kyle Shanahan. These guys thinking ahead of every situation that can happen in a game to have me prepared to go play it. And, was able to make some plays to close the game out there.
Talking to Logan Ryan right now. We know next week he's going to be playing in a Super Bowl with the 49ers, trying to win his third Lombardi trophy in his illustrious career. When we get to the decision-making by Dan Campbell, you guys made the plays. You guys benefited from it. But were you just shocked how aggressive he was with some of those fourth down decisions not to put his field goal kicker out there?
Yeah, it's funny. When I wasn't playing earlier this year, I was doing some broadcasting, doing some media, and starting to look at the game, I guess, a little bit from that side of things. As a player, I never really, thought too much about what the other coaches, that's a bad call, it's a good call. It's kind of like, hey, whatever. But I remember shaking my head like, why are they doing that? Like, this is going to hurt them. I felt like their opportunity – obviously, we came back with a lot of momentum in the third quarter there, and we're storming back here. And I think they had an opportunity to kick a field goal, maybe almost like a basketball game. When the other team gets hot, call a timeout. I feel like they had an opportunity to call a timeout, kick a field goal, right, get a small win there. But they were going for the jugular. They were going for the jugular in the third quarter, early fourth quarter, whatever that was. They were trying to essentially, in their words, probably end the game if they get some of those fourth downs. But it just was too soon, I think, to make that move. And when you don't get it, right, whatever analytics say, when you don't get it, the momentum in that stadium was nuts. Like I said, the crowd was raucous. So that's a stop. That's a win. That's a turnover on downs for us. Our offense is already humming, and our offense scored every possession they had the ball. So I think it's not the right move. Obviously, in the end, it's not the right move. But I just think that, in a playoff game, doesn't matter what you did all season. In a playoff game, you have to make the best decision in those moments. I think Detroit got a little too eager there, and that came back to bite them.
Wrapping up with Logan Ryan, what is it like to prepare for Patrick Mahomes?
Man, you just know that this game is going to go to the very end. No lead is necessarily safe. I've been in championship games against him with a lead, and that's not necessarily safe. And it's not a guy you want to get down 24-7 behind or whatever either. You don't want to have him too out of a start, and they're kind of rolling. So it's a real deal. You got to be on your game each and every play. Sometimes you got to cover twice. Most times you got to cover twice because even if you cover Kelsey, then Mahomes starts scrambling and the play starts over again. So, that team goes as him and Travis Kelsey go. They're two Hall of Famers. And it's easier said than done, but we're going to have to find a way to neutralize them or be ready to fight to the very end because we know he's not going nowhere.
Now, I know that you played with Tom Brady. You played against him. We all remember that interception that you had in that playoff game. I'm a Patriot fan. I wasn't thrilled with that in the moment, but always loved you as a player. Is it kind of crazy when people are already saying now that Mahomes is better than Brady when you hear that conversation a little bit the last 24, 48 hours?
I think their careers are going to be a good comparison at the end. I think you can't – I think now is way too soon. But I think there's no one else like him in terms of just the amount of consistency of success, the amount of AFC Championship games every year like Tom does, and the amount of Super Bowls and all the time. Tom Brady's in the Super Bowl all the time. Mahomes in the Super Bowl. So I obviously see the debate, and it's a debate, but I don't think you could put Mahomes over Brady for what he's done. And I think Brady going to Tampa really solidified a lot of stuff right there, man. To go to a new organization, win a Super Bowl in 1 year, that's unheard of. And obviously, I think with Mahomes, you're going to get with the Andy Reid stuff. You have a great coach, too. It's with Belichick. Well, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? I think Tom kind of answered those questions when he left New England. Mahomes might not have to answer those questions or might not be able to answer those questions because him and Andy Reid are so dang good together. Why would they leave? So it's a great debate, but I don't think you can put Mahomes above Brady yet.
Is it crazy to you, with only 2 jobs left, Logan Ryan, that it looks like Belichick and Vrabel are going to be shut out of this hiring cycle?
Yeah, I'm really surprised by that. I know Belichick is one of the best coaches. I mean, I think he's the greatest coach of all time. I know he's one of the best coaches available. But I don't know if it has to do with what his staff will look like or what's his plans. Obviously, he's a defensive-minded guy, so what's his offensive plans look like? How much control and roster control, and some of those things. I think that Vrabel and Belichick are both accustomed to is having some control of the roster, and I think that might be what this is about. I don't think it's about their coaching ability, because those are 2 of the best coaches I played for, and I was fortunate to play for a lot of great coaches.
Last thing I'll ask you. So you're on the cruise ship. You had other opportunities, like you were saying, and you ended up taking this one and joining the 49ers. Do you think Super Bowl 58 is going to be your final game as a pro?
Ooh, that's a great question, man. We'll see. I don't know what the emotions. It's going to be emotional either way, right? So I don't want to make that decision. Their emotions, but it could be a chance there. There could be a chance, and going out on top is a way to dream it if you could. Skip the whole training camp, skip the whole beginning parts of the season, go on a cruise, and then show up after Thanksgiving when it really matters. I mean, there's no better way as a vet to write it off. So we'll see. That'll be a good question for you to ask me after the game.
Well, good luck. Always appreciate your time. Thanks so much for doing this, and we'll talk to you down the road.
I mean, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
There he is, Logan Ryan, joining us. Just what a story that is. He was a phenomenal player with New England, had a bunch of other stops as well. But to be on a cruise and then you end up joining the 49ers and having a big role in the NFC title game, and now going to have a big role in the Super Bowl, really cool story, and just nothing but the best to his family. That was such a cool video after the game, seeing him, his wife, and his kids just run around on the field. What a wild month and a half it's been. All righty, we'll take a break. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
Let's just say I'm an NFL GM, and I call you up and I go, Kalen DeBoer, I'm thinking about using an early first-round pick on Michael Penix Jr. Why should I use it? Sell me on your quarterback.
Yeah, I think he makes all the throws from an arm talent standpoint. I mean, he throws a ball and he can throw it wherever he wants, as far down the field. He can throw it from college hash, on a line. He throws a really catchable ball. Just the way his football IQ, just ability to check protections and correspond blitzes and blitz patterns to coverages. It flows really fast for him. He's taken a lot of reps at a high college level, and I think all that's applicable to be able to make that transition to the next level.
Here's Zach Gelb.
We have breaking news. There has been a quarterback that has been added to the AFC Pro Bowl roster. And it's a laugher. You guys want to take a guess? Carlos with the K. I know that we've had Tyler Huntley recently in the Pro Bowl. I know Mac Jones has been in the Pro Bowl. And all those guys were there because a lot of other guys say no. If you want to take a guess, who is the latest addition to the Pro Bowl? And I think it's now Pro Bowl games, or it's like what is it, flag football?
Yeah,
now?
It's not an actual game anymore. I think it's flag football now.
No, it wasn't really an actual game anyway. But let's take a guess here. Carlos, who was added to the AFC roster to be a Pro Bowl quarterback?
Oh, AFC.
AFC.
I'm gonna say the name that you mentioned. I'm gonna say Mac Jones.
Oh, come on. Mac Jones.
They put anybody in the Pro Bowl. They put anybody there.
Stop. It's not Mac
Tommy
Jones.
DeVito's playing in the AFC for some reason.
No, it's not Tommy Cutlets. Stu?
I'll go Russell Wilson.
I wonder if Russ was asked over this guy.
He had decent numbers before he was benched.
The new AFC Pro Bowl quarterback on the roster, Gardner Minshew.
He's the backup.
Well, he played this year.
I get it, but he couldn't even beat out Anthony Richardson, who had an under 60% percentage in college. I get it.
Well,
it doesn't translate here. He was dynamic.
He was a top 5 pick, Anthony Richardson.
I get it. I really do. I personally think Colts may have reached a little bit, but hey, that's neither here nor there. Mm-hmm. He was still behind the guy that they drafted, and he's going to go to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, well, he had a good season, but you guys want to take a guess? How many touchdowns do you think Gardner Minshew threw this past year? If you want to just take a guess. I think Tyler Huntley had like 2 last year or something, and he ended up getting in. What's the guess here, Stu?
I'll say 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I had 12 in my head.
15 passing touchdowns to 9 interceptions.
More than 2.
For Gardner Minshew this year. And he also had 3 rushing touchdowns. So that's a total of 18 touchdowns for 18 touchdowns this year for Gardner Minshew. And he is a Pro Bowl quarterback.
Listen, Daniel Jones got paid on much less.
Daniel Jones, that was another mistake. And the Giants now are not even seeing the benefits of it. It's only negatives. You have one decent season when a guy for most of his career has been a bad quarterback. And I know there wasn't a lot around Daniel Jones, but geez Louise, that's wild. I don't think we could use Pro Bowl anymore for a standard to make the Hall of Fame. Like, let me ask you this. You're a football historian. How many guys, when their careers are going to end, they're going to be like a 4 or 5-time Pro Bowler now? And you're like, oh, maybe the guy's an outside chance to make the Hall of Fame, but it's because 20 other guys said no.
Yeah, it's already starting.
It's wild. Gardner Minshew is a Pro Bowler.
They just should just end the event. Don't even. It's not even a game anymore.
Does it even make the league money at this point?
I have no idea. I mean, I understand they want to honor them in some way, but really, come on.
Maybe you just have the honor. You give the guys any incentives that they get for making the Pro Bowl, and that's it. And
yes,
and I could understand. Hey, you get a free trip out of it, right? It's all fun and all that, but there's so many guys now that just roll their eyes at the Pro Bowl and go, "I'm not even entertaining that. I'm not even taking place." Like the last 3 years, Mac Jones, Tyler Huntley, and now Gardner Minshew have all been going to the Pro Bowl.
Is Don Strock available?
Jeez Louise. That's absolutely brutal. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Let's go to Michael in Vegas next up on the show, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Mike, go ahead.
Zach, I just wanted real quick to say I hate the Pro Bowl the last few years. I wish they'd just get rid of it.
Did you ever like the Pro Bowl, though?
No, well, back in the 1980, I used to watch it.
Yeah, because there was some physicality in it. It was an actual game.
It was cool. I mean, people tried and stuff, and it was like because it was your last game of the year, and we got to see a couple players. But that's a good question, though. Yeah, no, in the late 70s, it was fun. I want to tell you how amazing you are. That was an incredible interview, and I want to thank you for all of us listening. What a great interview with Logan Ryan.
Well, hey, I appreciate that, Mike, and thanks so much for the kind phone call. But, yeah, this is presumably because Mahomes is out of the Pro Bowl because now he's made the Super Bowl. Oh, man. Brady actually, I think he ruined the Pro Bowl because for so many years it was just Super Bowl or bust, or he was playing in the Super Bowl. Well, if Brady's not going to the Pro Bowl, then other quarterbacks, they say, well, I don't get to a Super Bowl, and I'm considered a great quarterback in the league. Maybe that I just shouldn't go. And you have all these guys that bow out. And it's now the week in between. It's this weekend. So maybe guys just start their vacation and they go, I don't really got time for the Pro Bowl. But, man, Gardner Minshew. I got a good chuckle out of that. All righty, we'll come on back. When we return, we will get to quarterbacks that don't have a ring that will next win a ring in the NFL. I got 5 for you. That will be on my top 5 list. But update time first. Here's the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, the Lions are coming off a tough loss on Sunday, but got a big win today with offensive coordinator Ben Johnson reportedly telling the Seahawks and Commanders he is staying in Detroit for another season. The 37-year-old, currently the hottest assistant coach on the market, but off the market now. Arthur Smith wasn't out of work long, but he won't be a head coach next year, reportedly joining the Steelers as their new offensive coordinator. The Knicks, currently the NBA's hottest team, and go for their 8th straight against the Jazz. New York is coming off a win last night in Charlotte, and they were without OG Anunoby and Julius Randle. The former could be back tonight. The latter will be out a couple of weeks. Jalen Brunson, coming off a game-high 32, said they're going to have to learn to adjust.
It's definitely a plus, when you can win on the road, no matter who's on the court. Obviously, we're going to miss him, but I mean, we got to continue to find ways to get better every single day, no matter who's out there, no matter who we're playing, and just have that mindset every single day.
The best team in the NBA goes for its second win in as many nights. The Celtics will host the Pacers after picking up win number 36 last night. And the Blue Jays and veteran third baseman Justin Turner reportedly agreed to a one-year deal. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is Jim Rome. We are talking to the biggest names in all of sports in the jungle weekdays from 12 to 3 Eastern on CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
And Trevor Lawrence, who I still think could be a really great quarterback. When you get told for 3 years, and we all have to hear about you with what you did at Clemson, and how everyone needs to tank for Trevor, and you need to be this great quarterback, you got to play better. Now, year one, you got to pass. Year two, you played really well. But this year, this team isn't taking the step forward. Jacksonville Jaguars, I had high expectations for you.
Here's Zach Gelb.
All righty, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. So Brock Purdy has a chance to win his first Lombardi Trophy next Sunday. I want to do a list here. We'll give you 5 guys each. 5 least likely, 1 most likely. Guys that don't have a ring right now that are NFL quarterbacks that will end up getting a ring. Now, I'm going to put 2 disclaimers on this. I'm going to take Brock Purdy out of the conversation because Brock Purdy is 60 minutes away from winning a Super Bowl. I am also going to take Joe Burrow out of the conversation. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but this is the way that I feel. Joe Burrow right now has to be viewed as the second best quarterback in the NFL. And not only the second best quarterback in the NFL, out of the active quarterbacks, he is the only one that has been able to defeat Mahomes in the playoffs when it matters. Like, we've seen guys like Lamar Jackson get a regular season win over the Chiefs. We've seen Josh Allen get regular season wins over the Chiefs. But in the playoffs, Lamar after this weekend 0-1. We've seen Josh Allen now 3 times go up against the Chiefs. Even if he has played well at times, he has not walked out of there with the victory. He is 0-3. Burrow had a 3-game win streak, 2 in the regular season and 1 in the playoffs at one point, up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, we've seen Burrow win against the Chiefs in the postseason, and then the following year lose in the Chiefs to the Chiefs in the postseason. But if there is one hope out of all the active quarterbacks in the NFL for someone that you could actually trust to defeat Mahomes in a big game, it is Joe Burrow, because Burrow has done it. All these other guys, even though Jalen Hurts outplayed Mahomes last year in the Super Bowl, didn't get the victory. Lamar Jackson has not defeated Mahomes in a big game. Josh Allen has not defeated Mahomes in a big game. So you may believe in them, but you can't fully trust them because they haven't done it yet. At least Burrow has done it. So for this list, I'll make that disclaimer. Take Purdy out of it and take Burrow out of it. So I'll go first, 5-1. In at number 5, I think this name is going to surprise some people. But I'm going with potential, and there are a few guys on this list that I've seen enough where I'm not going to believe that they're going to get a Super Bowl until they do. So I'm going to take a flyer on Jordan Love. In year 1, as a starting quarterback, Jordan Love got to a playoff game, won a playoff game, and then lost to what could be the Super Bowl champions in the San Francisco 49ers. And Green Bay, in my lifetime, they always find a way to get it right. From Favre to Rodgers, and now there's a thought that Love could be the guy after this year. And Love has a big arm. He's athletic. He can move around the pocket. You got to be a little less like Favre, though, with the gunslinger mentality, like what he did in that divisional round game, throwing across his body. Keep your team in the game. Sometimes the best throws that you make are the one that you throw out of bounds or you throw into the ground to live to see another day. But I'll put Jordan Love in at 5. Number 4, this guy hasn't proved it yet in the NFL. This guy hasn't proved it yet in the playoffs. He is a very, though, good young quarterback, but I think he has had some roadblocks in his way the last few years because of the incompetence of his head coach. Now, he gets one of the better coaches in football in Jim Harbaugh coming to Los Angeles. I will put Justin Herbert in at number 4. 3, I do not like this team chemistry. I think this team chemistry is really poorly, but you look at the AFC, it's so tough to really buy into guys because of who's standing in the way, with it being Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to go with one more NFC quarterback, and I'm going to put some stock in on Jalen Hurts. Because even though right now it's down in the dumps, and I think it's a massive mistake by the Eagles to bring back Nick Sirianni, and I do believe that Kellen Moore is wildly overrated as an offensive coordinator. This offensive genius was supposed to be a head coach. He's gone from offensive coordinator to the Cowboys said goodbye, to the Chargers. They said goodbye, and now he's going to be the OC of the Philadelphia Eagles. So there is a coaching problem in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts maybe has to alter his leadership approach, but once again, we did see him outperform Patrick Mahomes in the big game last year in the Super Bowl, even though they didn't win. So I'll put Hurts in at 3. Number 2. This guy had one of the greatest rookie seasons you'll ever see. CJ Stroud. I know the organization is an organization that maybe some are starting to trust again after the whole Jack Easterby debacle. But what CJ Stroud did this past year, and he barely turned over. Like, there's guys that come into the league, they throw a lot of touchdown passes, but then they also have like 18 interceptions attached to their name. Heck, Peyton Manning was a turnover machine when he first got into the league. But to see CJ Stroud throw 5 interceptions, yeah, holy smokes. And that division, Tennessee's rebuilding. We don't know what Anthony Richardson's going to be with the Colts. Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence, you want to believe in them, but they were severely disappointing this year. So I'll put CJ Stroud in at number 2. And in at number 1, it's Josh Allen still. Josh Allen is a top 4 quarterback in football. I know that the Bills have been there, and now you wonder how much longer is their window open. But look at those games. Josh Allen did everything in his power in that 13-second game to go win the football game. His defense let him down. Special teams let him down. His coach let him down. I was critical of Josh 2 weeks ago because he played a good game, but he had a bad ending. He's got to make those throws at the end. He's got to get the ball in the end zone at the end. This dude, though, still performs well enough in the big games where outside of the performance up against the Bengals last year, he doesn't really ever have a no-show in these postseason games. They just don't come out on the winning side. So guys that don't have a ring, you take Purdy and you take Burrow out of the conversation. Who do I believe in the most to get a ring? Out of the guys that don't have them, from 5 to 1, Love 5, Herbert 4, Hurts 3, Stroud 2, Josh Allen in at number 1. Stu, run through your list for me, 5 to 1. What do you got cooking?
Okay, number 5, I have Tua Tagovailoa. I know there were some questions there with how he played against good teams, how he plays in bad weather, but he has 2 great weapons, a good young coach. I'm not saying he's definitely going to win a Super Bowl, but I could see him winning a Super Bowl in the near future.
So Tua in at number 5. I didn't even consider Tua on my list. Didn't even cross my mind on my list about Tua Tagovailoa. But go ahead. 4?
4, I have Jordan Love.
Okay.
I like what I saw from him this year. Easier division, NFC open. I could see him winning a Super Bowl. Number 3, CJ Stroud, kind of like you. Love what I saw out of him. The division's for the taking. Just the talent there. He's only going to get better. Number 2, Jalen Hurts. Again, it didn't end well this year, but he's very talented. And, of course, I've won Josh Allen. So I did not have Justin Herbert on my list.
Yeah, and I can't, I know I put Herbert in at 4, but he was, on that 4 or 5 line, and I was thinking of other people to put in over Justin Herbert. I did not put Lamar Jackson. And you guys know me. I'm a huge fan of Lamar Jackson. And I've been saying for a while there has not been a big enough sample size in the postseason. He needed to have a pulse in that AFC title game. And he didn't even have a pulse. And that's a big-time problem because he is a phenomenal regular season player. But now I have to kind of genuflect to everyone for years that said, what has he done in the playoffs? He doesn't have a Super Bowl. When you're the number 1 seed in the AFC and you're the best team in the NFL and you didn't play a good first half up against the Texans and then you didn't show up against the Chiefs when the Chiefs were begging you to get back in the game, I can't tell you that I have confidence that Lamar is going to get the job done in the postseason. There's a difference between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson because I know that's going to be a big-time debated topic, and people go, how can you have confidence in Josh over Lamar Jackson? Well, Josh has at least showed up in those games. He hasn't won them, but most of the time it's not because of Josh Allen. And I'm not giving all the blame to Lamar. Like, Todd Monken stunk in that AFC Championship game. But, man, we know this is a quarterback-driven league. You got to find a way to basically put up more than a touchdown for the majority of that game, and they couldn't do that. So, Stu, just one more time, just 5 through 1, just go through the list just real quickly.
Number 5, Tua. Number 4, Jordan Love. Number 3, C.J. Stroud. Number 2, Jalen Hurts. Number 1, Josh Allen.
Okay. Chaos with the K. Carlos Ortiz, as I saw one of our YouTube chatters throw in there, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. You take Joe Burrow out of it. You take Brock Purdy out of it. Quarterbacks in the NFL that don't have a ring that you believe will win a ring next. 5 to 1. What do you got?
Well, thank God 5 is the least likely because I don't even think this is going to happen. But Dak Prescott at 5. And I'm not looking at the quarterback.
Is this a comedy hour? Are you trying to be a comedian?
I'm being serious.
Okay.
I'm taking a broader spectrum of things. I'm looking at the overall team composition. Mike McCarthy's eventually going to get fired. Ben Johnson will be the head coach of the Cowboys. And then he'll be able to finally get Dak over the hump. At the least likely, I have Dak at 5. Other than that, I think the list is very similar to what we have.
By the way, I don't want you to be like Mike McCarthy and mismanage the clock here. We only got 2 minutes left.
I'm looking right at it.
Just letting you know.
Looking right at it.
That was low-hanging fruit.
C.J. Stroud at 4.
Okay.
I have Josh Allen at 3. He made a lot of good points, but I'm higher on these next 2 guys. Justin Herbert, he just doesn't have
Herbert
the
over Allen.
I do. I look at both of them side by side.
Wow.
I love Herbert. He's been hamstrung by poor ownership and poor coaching. If he gets Josh Allen's opportunities, he makes it to a title game. So I'm all in on Herbert at 2. I have Jared Goff 1. He's been to the Super Bowl twice, and you look at the roster around him. I think Detroit is this. They're going to take their lumps this offseason. But they're on the upper-comers. Give me Jared Goff to win, most likely to win the title.
I felt really bad leading Goff off because the NFC is not a dominant conference and not loaded with quarterback talent. And look, the Lions, they get a little conservative in the second half. They could be playing for a Super Bowl this week, and maybe we take Jared Goff off this list like what we've been doing with Brock Purdy. So one more time, just 5 to 1, run through that list.
Dak Prescott at 5, C.J. Stroud 4, Josh Allen 3, Justin Herbert 2, Jared Goff at 1.
How about that list? Wow. I think the Herbert over Allen take is bold, but now he has Jim Harbaugh and Dak Prescott. Come on. What are we doing here? They couldn't even beat the Packers.
4 would have been perfect.
They got blown out of their own building in the first round.
To be fair, if we had 6, Jordan Love was my 6.
Okay. That's understandable. You know, I know we have a lot of listeners in the state of Wisconsin right now. I love you. I love Spotted Cow. I love cheese curds. Carlos Ortiz doesn't. So he's very anti-Wisconsin, and that's why he's not going to show any love.
I am
for
from
Jordan
Illinois.
Love. No, pretty close by. He's a Cubs fan. Loser. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio, or a traitor like that, Craig Counsell. Ugh, now he's singing Go Cubs Go. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? You'll never hear from Carlos Ortiz any other day. All righty, we'll take a break. When we come on back, we got to get to our greatest QB of all time draft. We will have 3 selections each. I know usually we go top 10, but we're going to give you a top 9 next, right here. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All righty, rocking and rolling. Hour number 3 of our radio program. We'll do back-to-back quarterback segments here. And we're going to include Stuart Kovacs and Carlos with the K in this conversation. You know, I thought Logan Ryan said it best. Like, Patrick Mahomes is going to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But right now, it's like inconceivable to me how people already are saying that he's already better than Tom Brady. Like, you could say he's more athletic than Tom Brady. Maybe you could say, he's had a better arm than Tom Brady. But when you look at the resumes, you can't say right now, especially when Brady beat Mahomes twice in the postseason, AFC title game, where Brady was surgical in his 40s on third down conversion after third down conversion after third down conversion. And the lone Super Bowl that Mahomes lost, he got blown out by Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where I was on an island plussing the points with the Bucs and taking the Bucs on the money line, double dipping in both categories because the Chiefs were the favorite in that game. Like, you could argue right now that Mahomes is a top 5 quarterback of all time. If you want to say he's the third best quarterback of all time, I think that's the highest that I'm willing to go right now, which is already an incredible accomplishment for how young he is in his career. But with the overall totality of the career so far, right now in the year of 2024, I can't say Mahomes is better than Brady, and I can't say Mahomes is better than Joe Montana, just for starters. But if you want to craft the argument that right now he's the third greatest quarterback of all time, I could at least listen to it and I could entertain it. But to say with the totality of the career that Brady and Montana had and their longevity, especially with Brady, and Brady winning with 2 teams and Brady beating Mahomes in every big game, the 2 times they had, I can't put Mahomes in front of Brady right now. But it speaks to how great Mahomes has been, and I love Mahomes. He's a video game, for crying out loud. And it just shows you how little we know about the NFL draft. Because I'll never forget this. We'll be at the Super Bowl next week, and we'll be doing 5 shows from Radio Row, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 p.m. Pacific, right here on CBS Sports Radio. And I remember when Mahomes was getting set to be drafted, they brought him to Radio Row. Like, no one wanted to interview this guy. And he was a projected first-round pick. They were begging, because I know his PR handler at the time, she was begging a college radio station to put him on. And they eventually ended up putting on Patrick Mahomes. Now think about that. Imagine those college kids. They were talking to Patrick Mahomes. Oh, let's see what he turns out to be. And then he turns out to be one of the all-time greats at the position. And I'll tell you, because I was sitting right next to Clark Hunt, and then I was sitting next to Mahomes in the aftermath of the AFC Championship game on Sunday as they were all doing interviews and they were waiting to get up to the podium. And Mahomes is getting the nicest things said about him from Brett Veach, their general manager. Like, the nicest things said about him. Mahomes is looking at his phone, just no reaction. Like, I don't know how that's possible. And he definitely, because sometimes, right, like Carlos could talk to me and I could be on my phone and I could not be paying attention, tuning Carlos out. But when someone is just effusive in their praise of you over and over and over again, there has to be some human reaction. But I think it's kind of that Brady and Mamba next mentality, where for Brady, oh, what's your favorite championship? The next one. The late, great Kobe Bryant, job's not done yet, went up 2-0 in an NBA Finals. Like, there are just moments like that these guys don't show you their emotions, don't show smiles publicly until they get the job done. But I almost wanted to look at Mahomes. And you know me, it's very tough for me to be silent and to not say anything. But there's a press conference going on. It's a professional setting. I almost wanted to look at Patrick and say, hello, you got to have a reaction here. You got to smile. You got to at least acknowledge what your general manager is saying about you. But it just shows you the way that these guys are wired. He is we all know he's a phenomenal football player. And everyone's hunting Mahomes for the foreseeable future. And you could buy into this guy, that guy, tell you that this guy's going to be good, predicted and all that stuff. you're going to get burned. The only guy that can make the case right now on who could beat Mahomes in a big game that's active, Joe Burrow. That's it. Or if Brady wants to come out of retirement and join the 49ers, which was reported this offseason, which he ended up not doing, then okay, I could give you Tom Brady too. But of all the other guys in the NFL, you want to tell me Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, C.J. Stroud, Jared Goff, Jalen Hurts, like whoever it is, you could say it. But until it happens, why should I believe it? And this is coming from someone that picked against Kansas City against the Dolphins, picked against Kansas City against the Buffalo Bills, and picked against Kansas City against the Baltimore Ravens. I ain't doing it again. I'm not picking again. I'll tell you right now, I can make a great case why the 49ers should win the game. Quite frankly, my gut tells me that the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl. And there's a whole lot of gut to go around. But my brain keeps on screaming to me, like, you cannot pick against Mahomes in the big game. And maybe some of it is the Brady conversation, too. I was hoping that the Chiefs would go down. But they're just such a likable team. Like, Mahomes is the most likable guy. Like, he really is. He's a stud. He's cool. He's calm. The only reason to dislike him is his brother. But he's just like a stud. And he does things on a football field where you're like, holy smokes. And look at the connection with Kelsey in the first half. And the second half, they did nothing. And then he has the awareness to say, I learned this year to trust our defense, and at times you just got to be a game manager. And it just shows you, doesn't matter how you win. Mahomes could go out there and throw 500 yards and 6 touchdown passes. But then he's also fine with just taking the layup throws, protecting the football, not having the most prodigious stats, just as long as you win. And that's what the great ones do. The great ones, doesn't matter how you win, just as long as you win. So, with the Mahomes and Brady whole conversation that's going to keep on happening year after year after year, which it's funny to me. It's like when Brady had 4, you can't say he's better than Montana. When Brady had 5, you can't say he's better than Montana because he lost 2 Super Bowls. Then Brady gets 6. It's like, okay, we could say he's better than Montana. Like, that was a long time for people to then say Brady has gone past Montana. And I don't know if it was the overwhelming majority, but it was a loud vocal minority. Like, even Howard Eskin, our boss's father, who is a longtime radio guy, he still won't say Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. But now people are all of a sudden with 2 championships and maybe a third one after next Sunday, they're already calling Mahomes the greatest quarterback of all time. So let's do a draft here. I'll go first, and we'll draft the top 9 greatest quarterbacks of all time, and we'll all make 3 selections each. I'll go, then Stu will go, then Carlos will go, and then we'll snake it back around, Carlos, Stu to me. If you can't tell, in the number 1 spot, I'm going with Tom Brady.
No way.
Yeah, shocking. Ooh, we got a little NFL music here. I like this. Damn it. All righty, Stu, what do you got?
I will go with, I think, who is the clear second. That is Joe Montana with all his Super Bowls with the 49ers. Obviously played in a different era, but at the same time, he has all those rings. I don't think that could be disputed at this point.
So Tom Brady 1, Joe Montana 2, Carlos with the K. I am very reluctant to go to Carlos because he was just making a case in the last segment on why Dak Prescott will somehow one day win a Super Bowl. So, you know how when you took a test in school and sometimes it'd be graded on a curve and you get a few extra points? I may have to find a curve to get the best out of Carlos Ortiz here because I am very, very, very skeptical after you just said Dak Prescott is one of your top 5 choices to win a Super Bowl and guys that haven't.
I think the words you're looking for are you're welcome, because if I'm giving you extra points, then I just boosted everybody's grade point average up.
That's kind of a douchey thing to say.
You're welcome.
I didn't mean it that way. But maybe there was a kid in school that you kind of looked at and you go, oh, he's walking in? Oh, I'm getting a few extra points on this test because there's no way that kid's going to do well.
I'm here for all of you.
All right, what do you got? Who's 3?
I'm taking Peyton Manning as my first selection here. Listen, he went to the Pro Bowl in pretty much every season except for his
when the Pro Bowl
year,
actually mattered.
When the Pro Bowl actually mattered. But listen, 2 Super Bowl rings, 1 he was the MVP on. He still holds NFL records. So Peyton Manning for me is number 3 overall behind Brady and Montana. And since I get to go again, this is the only quarterback I'm going to select that doesn't have a ring, Dan Marino. Dan Marino was breaking records left and right when people were running the ball constantly. And it was a much more physical game. They did not have all the rules for quarterbacks that they do now where you can't breathe on it anymore. So Dan Marino, for me, will be my second quarterback off the board.
How about that? I don't have any objection to Dan Marino, but could you imagine if Dan Marino played today? Look how many touchdown passes he threw in an era that wasn't throw, like Carlos just said. And also now the rules are all slanted towards the offense. I'm okay with the Dan Marino
He had
selection.
almost 90K passing yards. He'd have like 150. If Dan Marino was being drafted right now,
he'd be on Madden
he'd
every
shatter
year.
everything.
He really would be. All righty, Stu, who is number 5 here?
So I'm between two guys, but I will go with Mahomes.
Good.
There's still a lot, there's a lot of stuff for him to do, but at the moment, has the 2 Super Bowls, the 2 Super Bowl MVPs, the 2 regular season MVPs. I think he's right there right now.
So I get to make 2 selections here. Is that correct?
That's right.
So we have Tom Brady 1, Joe Montana 2, Peyton Manning 3, Dan Marino 4, and Patrick Mahomes 5. So this will be my last 2 selections. Ooh. All righty. I am going to put Johnny Unitas on the list. And here is why. In 1959, Johnny Unitas threw for 32 touchdowns. We know about all the championships. We know about all the MVPs as well. But you guys want to take a guess to just show you the disparity here and the difference here from Johnny Unitas and everybody else in 1959, which, by the way, they only played 12 games back then. He had a 9-3 record, and in 1959, he threw for 32 touchdown passes. What do you think the guy who was second on that list, Eagles' Norm Van Brocklin, how many touchdown passes do you think? Number 1 was 32. What was number 2? Carlos, want to take a guess?
12.
Man, I didn't think you'd go that low. Stu?
25.
16.
Okay.
So I was close.
16. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Or actually, sorry. It was 20. We had a reordering issue. I don't know why they would do it this way, but it was 20. Think about that. 32 to 20. He threw 12 more touchdowns than everybody else in the NFL, and then in third place was 16. That's just bonkers. So Johnny Unitas is in the next spot, and that would be in at number 6. So Brady, Montana, Manning, Marino, Mahomes, Unitas off the board. See, I wonder if I have to go old school guys here. And it's funny because I'm the youngest here, but I want some checks and balances here. I am going to hope that one guy I leave off here, cough, cough, he's a cowboy, ends up getting selected. But I'm going to run the risk because I'm going to do what's right here. I'm going John Elway. So I'm taking John Elway. Why are you slamming your hands down?
That was my next pick.
Oh, so maybe I should have taken Staubach then. But I don't know. I got to go Elway there. So Brady 1, Montana 2, Manning 3, Marino 4, Mahomes 5, Unitas 6, Elway 7. Let's bring it on home. Stuart Kovacs in at number 8. See, this is tricky because you have way back in the day guys like Otto Graham, right? Which is way back in the day. Favre is still out there. Staubach is still out there. Aaron Rodgers. There's a bunch of guys that are still out there that have not been named yet. And this is why top 10 quarterbacks, I know we're only doing 9 because I get 3, Stu gets 3, and Kovacs and Carlos gets 3. This is very tricky.
You must be annoying to do fantasy football drafts with just announcing all the available players where managers are like, stop telling who I'm going to pick next.
Yes.
Misdirection.
Well, I'm also setting it up for the listening audience. What I'm doing is I am trying to clean the house a little bit before the cleaning lady comes. And the reason is because I already feel the tweets brewing. I already feel the direct messages brewing. You idiots! How do you leave this guy off the list? So I'm at least acknowledging the other people that could be on the list. So then when people come after us, I can at least say, well, hey, I picked Brady. Hey, I picked Unitas. I picked Elway. It was these other 2 idiots that didn't get the job done. So I blame it on you guys. Stu, I'm a team player, though. Don't ever forget that. I would never throw anyone under the bus here at CBS Sports Radio.
Hashtag Team Zach.
What do you got, Stu?
Yeah, this is tough. I am going to go with the current, more recent player between two guys. I'm going to go Drew Brees.
Drew Brees!
I think
it's not a bad pick.
I think the numbers that he put up were just astronomical.
Yeah, they were.
I know he does only have one Super Bowl, which is not great. The one Super Bowl MVP as well. It's tough. I do think Brees should be in this conversation just based off of talent. Maybe not in terms of winning. He doesn't have that pedigree, but in terms of just pure talent and the numbers, I'll go Brees in this situation.
Yeah, as great as Brees was, I think I'd rather have Rodgers over him.
He was the other one I was considering for that.
I think I'd rather have Favre over him. I guess you could make the case for Otto Graham, but definitely Staubach. Man, we're going to leave out here. And I don't know who Carlos is going to go. Watch, Carlos is going to go with Taylor Ham-Heineke for the last pick. But one of these guys will not, or multiple of these guys will not be on this list. There may be no Otto Graham. There may be no Roger Staubach. There may be no Brett Favre. But Stu, you put Brees over Rodgers?
I do. I think he was just, in terms of statistics, he was better. I mean, they both have one Super Bowl. It's not like Rodgers has two. If Rodgers had 2 or 3 Super Bowls, I would definitely put Rodgers ahead of him.
Yeah, the thing with Brees, where I have to push back with Rodgers, is the MVP. Brees never won an MVP.
It's true.
Rodgers has won, 3, maybe 4 league MVPs?
3. He's gotten 4.
So it's 4?
Yeah, he got 2011, 14, 20, and 21. Because he had the back-to-back a couple years ago.
Right, with the doubting of of Gutekunst doubting him, which Gutekunst ended up being right. Funny how that works. All righty, so Drew Brees. I like Drew. Nothing against Drew. I can't call him, though, the 8th best quarterback of all time. All righty, what do you got, Carlos? Send us home.
I got real strong consideration for Rodgers. I really do. But if Steve Young didn't back up Montana for 3 years, didn't play in the USFL.
Staubach. What are you guys doing?
No Staubach. No Staubach, no Otto Graham. I'm sorry to all of my football purists. But Steve Young might have been one. He was the quintessential rushing quarterback before all of these rushers out right now. If Steve Young was playing, he would fit the model today. And again, there was 5 years he didn't play in pro football, and he still put up numbers of over 33,000 yards, 232 touchdowns, a quarterback rating of 97. I would take Steve Young as my last pick.
All righty. I like Steve Young a lot. The name I could understand 3 of us leaving Otto Graham off the list. Staubach, though, that's just the iconic football name. Oh, I hear the Cowboys fans. I hear them. And you know what? It's the one time the cockroaches actually have a legitimate gripe with this show. That was a fun exercise. So I take Brady. Stu takes Montana. Carlos double dips Manning Marino. Then Stu gets Mahomes. I take Unitas and Elway. And then Stu goes Brees and Carlos goes with Steve Young. All righty. That's our greatest quarterback ever draft. All those guys are obviously all-time greats. But just not having Staubach in there, it feels wrong to me. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
For Tua, now he's healthy and he's playing good football. He's not playing elite football. He's not a quarterback that I think wins a Super Bowl this year. But look how long it's taken Miami to find the guy that they like. Just like, not even love, since Dan Marino left them. So I'm not saying that you have to be head over heels in love with the quarterback. But if you like that quarterback, you know what life is like when you don't have a quarterback that you even like.
Here's Zach Gelb.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Had fun 2 back-to-back segments doing quarterbacks that don't have a ring, which will be the one that ends up getting that ring first. And then the last segment, we did a QB draft of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Now, Stu's compiled a list of a few teams. Better chance to be in a Super Bowl or miss the playoffs next season. So I either have to pick, do I see this team potentially getting in the Super Bowl or miss the playoffs outright next season? What is the better percentage of chance? By the way, James Cook from the Buffalo Bills is going to stop by in about 10 to 15 minutes from now. Stu, what do you got cooking? Who's the first team?
All right, we'll stick with the teams that just missed out on the Super Bowl. We'll first start in the NFC with the Detroit Lions.
I think it's a better chance they make the Super Bowl next year. Because, let's just say the 49ers don't get back to the big game. They don't do that next year. Who's the next team that you think of? Well, I have trust issues in Philadelphia. I have trust issues in Dallas. There's other teams, and I'll hold off on them for the sake of this list, that maybe you could be confident in. But when you look at those marquee teams in the NFC from a year ago, Detroit is just a little less aggressive in that second half. They go to the Super Bowl. And Logan Ryan on the 49ers, he joined us about an hour and a half ago. He even said they were too aggressive. And he thought there were moments where you just got to take the points with momentum being a real thing. So, yeah, I will go Lions better chance to be in the Super Bowl next year than it is to miss the playoffs.
Baltimore Ravens. Now you got to obviously look at the division they're in, which is also a pretty tough division, but I know they do have a lot of talent.
I'm going to say miss the playoffs, and here's why. Up until this year, the last 2 seasons, unfortunately, Lamar Jackson has been hurt to end the season. He got a good bill of health this year. I can't guarantee you that's going to be the case next year. And I know you could say, you could say that for any team. But next year, Joe Burrow's been just as injured, if not more. He's coming back off an injury. You then look at the rest of that AFC North. The Steelers are always a solid squad. And let's see if Deshaun Watson can get back to being a good quarterback in this league. That is the toughest division in football, that AFC North. Because, there's usually always one team that's bad in a division. That team does not have a team that you could look at next year and be like, they're going to be a bad football team. The Bengals still were a solid squad and had a chance to make the playoffs with their best player out. And arguably the second best quarterback in the league. So I think it's more likely that the Ravens miss the playoffs than make the Super Bowl next year. And also, it's a real thing now. I have waved the white flag. For years I defended Lamar. I said the sample size is not big enough. But when Kansas City only puts up 17 points in an AFC title game, and you can't get yourself in the game when they got shut out in the second half, that's when I get out on Lamar Jackson winning a Super Bowl in this league. Next teams do.
The Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen.
I'm going to say there's a better chance they are in the Super Bowl than they missed the playoffs. Look, they were as bad as you thought it could get, starting off 6-6. The entire year, they were not in that lead spot for the AFC East, and they still won the division. I know the Jets get Rodgers back, but they don't have an offensive line. The Patriots are rebuilding, and I don't trust Tua in a big game. So, yeah, I do think the Bills are going to win the AFC East. And if it could just be one day where someone picks off Mahomes that isn't Burrow, maybe that guy ends up being Josh Allen, who has played individually really well in those 2-3 times he's gone up against Mahomes in the postseason. They just can't find the way to get the job done. But I think there's a better chance the Bills make the Super Bowl next year than it is that they miss the playoffs.
Team that had a surprising season with a surprising play at quarterback with Baker Mayfield, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, and give them credit. They made the second round of the playoffs, too. They crushed the Eagles in that wild card game. But I got to think with one team just going to the playoffs probably out of that division, I would think there's a good chance they regress. I know that they have some incredible players on the defensive side of the ball. Levante David had a really good season, but he's getting older. I don't know if Mike Evans is going to be back. He's a free agent. And you would think Baker Mayfield is going to be back, but Baker Mayfield there and maybe Mike Evans not is a totally different feel in Tampa Bay. So I'll say it's a better chance they miss the playoffs next year, Tampa Bay, than it is that they reach the Super Bowl.
What about the Los Angeles Rams?
Super Bowl. Those are one of those teams that when I was saying, there's some teams in the NFC that maybe we'll get to later. What Matthew Stafford did this year with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, and now the retirement talk going away with McVay, and it feels like it's not there this year with Aaron Donald and the way that Williams emerged down the stretch. I think that's a team that they could be, on paper, the second or third best team in the NFC entering next season.
Let's go to Houston Texans with the play of C.J. Stroud.
Because of who that quarterback is, and they're just getting started, and they don't even have elite weapons on the offensive side of the ball for him. Like, Nico Collins is a nice player. He's their number one wide receiver. Imagine when they continue to bring in more and more talent to Houston. And DeMeco Ryans is a player coach, but he's not a doormat. I think that will attract more names to H-Town. I think there's a better chance that the Texans are in the Super Bowl than it would be missing the playoffs next season.
The Green Bay Packers.
And how confident I am with Love, too. I got to go miss the playoffs just because really next year is year 2 for Love. I know he's been in the year longer than that, but sometimes you go into, it's a second full season as a starter and you fall off a little bit and then it ends up turning out to be better for the long term. Like Tom Brady, and I know he replaced Bledsoe with the injury with Mo Lewis. People forget the next season after winning that Super Bowl against the Rams, they were a solid team. I think they finished 9-8 or 9-7, but they missed the playoffs. I think sometimes you get have a good year but miss the playoffs and it sets you up for a year after that. I will say the Packers, there's a better chance they miss the playoffs than win the Super Bowl next year, even though I was very, very, very encouraged what I saw from Love.
What about the Dallas drama choking Cowboys?
Yeah, it's missed the playoffs because you're bringing in McCarthy as a lame duck head coach. I know that team has an incredible amount of talent. They couldn't even get out of the wild card round with all these Cowboys fans telling me they're a great team. I think there's a better chance they miss the playoffs than make the Super Bowl next year.
Sticking in the NFC East, the Philadelphia Eagles.
I got to see it from back-to-back years. I don't believe in them. I think there is a legitimate coaching problem in Philadelphia. I do not like Kellen Moore. I do not like Nick Sirianni anymore. The Fangio hire is okay. It's a solid hire on the defensive side, but they have so much talent on that team. I just don't see a way where like bleep hit the fan this year and they still made the playoffs. I don't see a way that they miss the playoffs next year. So I'll say make the Super Bowl.
And then last but not least, the Miami Dolphins.
It's funny because McDaniels had back-to-back seasons where he's done a lot of winning in the regular season. And last year it wasn't a disaster in the playoffs. They had Skylar Thompson as quarterback and they almost beat Buffalo. And then this year they go into Kansas City and their offense did nothing. I just don't see Tua being in a Super Bowl. I don't. And I think it's more likely that they miss the playoffs because of the pileup of how many good young quarterbacks there are in the AFC. And you mix that in with Rodgers coming back as well and one of those veteran names being in the AFC too. I think they could be one of those teams that get like 9 or 10 wins next year. And then there's a tiebreaker where they're on the outside looking in. So I will say it's more likely they miss the playoffs than make the Super Bowl. All righty. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. When we come on back, James Cook had a sensational sophomore season for the Buffalo Bills. He'll join us on the other side. Update time first. Here is the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Oh, if the Lions' season didn't end well, their offseason is off to a good start with the encouraging news that offensive coordinator Ben Johnson is reportedly staying for another season after being thought to be a target of either the Seahawks or Commanders, if not both. He has opted to stay in Detroit. The Steelers have found their fix for their offense, reportedly naming former Falcons head coach Arthur Smith as their new offensive coordinator. The Celtics may have the NBA's best record, but that doesn't mean it's been easy for them. They'll host the Pacers tonight after a win over New Orleans last night, which Boston had to rally, falling behind early before pulling it out. As head coach Joe Mazzulla isn't too broken up that his team had to work a little harder for it to get last night.
I just hope it happens 10, 12 more times so we can get rid of the entitlement that we're always supposed to be winning. So I hope we have to blow leads. I hope all that happens. I really do. And so that's what I think. I think it's just like at times we're just supposed to be winning all the time. And it's just not the case.
Celtics are 21-2 at home. The Knicks are coming off a win in Charlotte and go for their 8th in a row tonight against the Jazz, who fell in Brooklyn last night. The Sixers, percentage points in front of New York in the East, will take on the Warriors. Joel Embiid will be a game-time decision. I'm Rich Ackerman.
You're listening to CBS Sports Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all live, all the time.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining.
host on CBS Sports Radio, just wrapped up his second season in the NFL, is James Cook, who had over 1,500 all-purpose yards for the Buffalo Bills, and he joins us today on behalf of Thorn. We'll hear about them in just a bit, but to learn more, visit www.thorn.com. That's THORNE.com. James, appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this. How you been?
I've been good.
How do you look back, just wondering, at the individual season that you had this past year? Clearly, the Bills asked more of you in your number 2, and it paid off for you individually and the team.
Yeah. Took a lot, ups and downs, through the season, but we got to stay steady. So, just having that success this year early is good. And, it's a momentum push for the next season, so.
With the rookie year that you had in year 1, what did you kind of do in the offseason? I know they asked more of you in year 2, but to get the production that you had.
Just kind of focused on myself and what I put in the work, was working by myself, and when you can push yourself, so push myself hard, and it paid off this year.
And a lot of people thought you could be a very successful running back when you were coming out of college at Georgia. I'm just wondering, after the year that you put out this season, which was very successful for you, how much better do you think James Cook could be in the NFL down the road?
Control my own destiny, till we continue.
Talking to James Cook right now. Obviously, everyone knows your brother, Dalvin Cook, with him being your older brother, and now you going through this journey. I know he just wrapped up his season with the Baltimore Ravens. How big of an influence has your brother been in your football journey for you?
A lot, just having an older brother that's in the league playing, having success is awesome. He just give me advice, that I need, and I take it and I try to get better and learn from everything they tell me.
So the Buffalo Bills this year, you guys started off 6-6. People were wondering then if you were going to make the playoffs. You guys end up getting hot down the stretch. You lose in the second round to Kansas City. Just what did you think of this past season? Clearly, you still want to keep on playing, but how do you kind of look back on the team success this year and what you guys could do better?
Stay healthy, and people thought we weren't going to make it, So our team, I feel like we showed a lot of adversity and the ups and downs that we had during our season. So, we can't be nothing but be proud of ourselves. So just hope next year we come back and get better and just learn from what we did last year and try to fix everything.
You know how this works. We live in a reactionary society, James Cook. So you guys come up short, and then everyone gives the take the next day. Oh, Josh Allen and the Bills, they'll never win a Super Bowl. You being in that locker room, what do you say to people that just keep on doubting if the Buffalo Bills will one day deliver a championship to their fans in that organization?
Just keep watching.
I like that answer. James Cook here with us. We'll talk about Thorn in just a second. What did Joe Brady bring to this team? I know he's now going to be the full-time offensive coordinator. That was talked about the other day. But you being a part of that offense, what changes did you see once when, unfortunately, Ken Dorsey got let go and Joe got promoted to be in the interim OC?
There's a lot of energy, him just rallying around us and giving the playmakers the ball. And that's one thing I feel like he changed. And he just bring a lot of energy, man. Young guy, South Florida guy, from the same area. So it's going to be more of the James Cook and Joe Brady show this year.
What do you think that show could look like next year? Because obviously down the stretch, that Dallas game was a monster performance for you. You really just kept on getting better throughout the season. So what does the Joe Brady and James Cook show look like next year?
Stay tuned. Still a lot of work, still early. So I don't want to just put nothing out there, but it's just got to be a lot of work done, and we'll see.
Just wondering, being on the same team the last 2 years with Josh Allen, who's one of the better quarterbacks in the league, What has stood out to you the most with your quarterback in Josh Allen, what he brings to the squad?
Just a lot of things, a lot of leadership, just rallying the guys when we down, and just a lot that come with his plate, just being a quarterback in general. So I feel like he does a great job handling it, and I feel like he can really do it, and he's a good guy.
There's been so much conversation in the last year with Stefon Diggs. You being in that locker room, just what is your view of Stefon Diggs as a teammate with the Buffalo Bills?
Great person, great leader. He carry himself how he carry himself the right way. And, that's my guy. So, he's a great leader, man. And,
do you think at all maybe like the conversation about him gets overblown a little bit? Because there's always like a little ominous feel with Steph Diggs and everyone thinks there's going to be an issue with him in the locker room.
Nah, man, he's good, great people, man. He don't give no problem, no nothing.
All righty, James, before we let you run, I know you're teaming up with Thorne, you and your brother. For more information, visit thorne.com. That's THORNE.com. Tell me a little bit about your partnership with Thorne and how they've been a good resource for you.
Just help me, just all them, like, materials that they give me to stay healthy, take care of my body. And, it's one of the best brands, so yeah, I use it, and it got me through a great, healthy season.
Who do you think's going to win the Super Bowl, by the way, between the Chiefs and the Niners?
I'm going with Christian McCaffrey.
Why is that?
He's a guy.
Will you watch the Super Bowl? Like, obviously, last week you probably watched the Ravens game because your brother's playing.
I watch football.
Yeah. You never know. When you lose, it's just like, how long does it take you to get that out of your system?
That's been over with. It's time to move on and get better now.
You got it. Well, hey, good luck this offseason. Thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate the time.
Appreciate y'all.
There he is, James Cook from the Buffalo Bills, joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And honestly, the Bills become one of those teams that you're most curious about to see what they do next year. Like, entering next football season, the Jets obviously are a team that people are going to be interested in because it's the return of Aaron Rodgers. The Bills, I think there's a lot of people who now say, all right, they're not going to get over the hump. The Bengals, we know how legit of a team they've been, and now they're going to get Joe Burrow back. And similarly to the way that we just talked about the Bills, you could say the same thing about the Ravens. It's like no matter what those teams do in the regular season next year, Baltimore and Buffalo, no one's going to give a rat's ass about them until playoff time. And you could throw the Cowboys in there too. And I know the NFL is not like the NBA. The regular season matters. The NBA players basically tell you the regular season doesn't matter. Just get in the postseason. And some people take the LeBron approach. Some people take the Golden State approach. And they don't usually have success come playoff time. Because those, like LeBron teams with the Heat, LeBron with the K, didn't matter what seed they were. And for the Warriors, they had a 73-win season, and it didn't result in a championship. It didn't matter what seed they were. When you have LeBron, when you have Steph Curry, when you had Kevin Durant, it did not matter what seed you were. You knew what the finals matchup in all likelihood was going to be. But in the NFL, especially in the AFC, you can be a really damn good team and miss the postseason. So regular seasons do matter in the NFL, but there are teams like Buffalo, Miami, you have the Bengals, Dallas, even Philadelphia, where you go into next year and you go, does it matter what they do in the regular season? Like, is there anything in the regular season, any of those 4 or 5 teams that I just named, is there anything that they could do where the overwhelming majority of people then start to say, yeah, that team's going to go to the Super Bowl? Like, the Bengals, let's just say the Bengals and the Eagles, since they've both been to a Super Bowl, they go have dominant regular seasons, like 13, 14 wins next year. It's just going to reiterate the belief that they could get back to a Super Bowl. And the Eagles have been questioned, the Bengals haven't. But when you see both those two teams, it's tough to impress in the regular season knowing what the one last thing is they need to accomplish. But more so when you see the Ravens, the Bills, and the Cowboys, those three teams in particular, I don't think there's anything they could do in the regular season that will then make people say in the middle of the season, all righty, that team's definitely going to the Super Bowl. Because Dallas now for the last 3 years has been a double-digit dominant force in the regular season, and the farthest that they have been has been in the divisional round, where they needed to beat a crappy 8-9 Tampa Bay team to get there. You see the Ravens. This year it was made for them. Baltimore could be the number 1 seed next year. You will have people picking against the Ravens because of the shortcomings they displayed this year. And then Buffalo, I know that they have reached an AFC championship game, but ever since they reached that AFC championship game in 2019, they have now gone the other way, and they've been stuck in the divisional round. And there will always be that feeling of, can they get past the Kansas City Chiefs? So it's not being negative. It's not being critical of the teams. It's just being realistic. And this has come from someone that when Buffalo got to 7-6 and beat Kansas City, I took the bait. I put a future down at plus 550, or excuse me, at plus 1,000 for them to go to the Super Bowl. I was getting offered money to cash out. I should have taken it before the Chiefs game. And I didn't do so. I was thinking about maybe doing so before the AFC title game. And then get some money out of it. Win some dinero, win some cash. But it didn't go down that way. And that's what makes this year so damaging for a lot of those AFC teams that we just mentioned. You had no Burrow, and you had what we thought was a vulnerable Chiefs team. Even the Chiefs will tell you they were vulnerable. They didn't quit. They didn't doubt themselves. But Andy Reid even talked about how the Raiders game on Christmas was their turning point. Like a month ago, it was not a hot take to say that Kansas City wasn't going to be playing in the Super Bowl. But until you take out Mahomes, there's always a chance he gets there. And that's what I said about Kansas City all throughout the year. Even though I didn't believe in them, the way I said it was they will be a tough outcome playoff time. Because you got to give the champ everything you got and then some, even when they're vulnerable, to take them out. Buffalo couldn't do it. Dolphins never had a chance. And the Ravens, quite frankly, were getting begged by Kansas City to make it a fight. And they never made it a fight. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. I'd like to thank Logan Ryan for stopping by today. James Cook as well from the Buffalo Bills. Carlos with a K. Stuart Kovacs as well. And each and every one of you for listening, calling, interacting with the show. You can always follow us on social media. We are buzzing on social media these days. Buzzing. We were all over the internet this past weekend, and we thank you for making that possible with the Joe Flacco interview, being featured on Entertainment Tonight with the Drew Tranquil interview as well. Brian Urlacher making waves in the rounds on this show, so we can't thank you enough. And also stream us each and every day, youtube.com/CBS.